discuss. So I hope that we will have a nice discussion today. And first, I would like to say thanks to Jacqueline, who is here with me, to hosting this discussion, and then we will give floor to Silvio Heinz, who will present the first part of the paper and tell his own opinions concerning that. Silvio, here is a microphone.
Hello. The first chapter is about the internet as a public infrastructure, and to make it really short and brief, there are three main principles which are important there. It's first about free. The internet is free. The internet is open. And we need, of course, access to the internet. And I would like to give you just a short example why infrastructure is something we need to talk about in this matter. I would like to introduce you the concept of net neutrality. This is one of the topics which is normally a bit boring. And we would like not to talk about it, but it's quite essential for the internet. I mean, you can imagine the internet like a mail service, yeah? They're sending boxes from one door to the other. But what would be now net neutrality? In these boxes there can be an email, there can be photo, there can be videos, a lot of different stuff. And normally the post service transports these without looking into these boxes. So a picture or video will be as fast delivered as an email. But the problem is now, if we are losing net neutrality, this means that the internet service providers are looking into these boxes. So they're looking, there's an email, we transport it normal, and this is in video, let's make it a bit slower. And therefore, this is touching two of these three main principles of the internet, the free and open. And this is something which happens at the moment, or which starts, or is at the moment still in progress of many countries. I think I know it's in Germany, it's a big discussion at the moment, but also in Austria here, it's something we are discussing. And if you're losing net neutrality, it's one of the core principles of the internet, we are losing a lot of potential, which will be presented in the other chapters.
Thank you very much, Silvio, for giving this short introduction highlighting the importance of net neutrality. Any questions from the floor? Remarks? Suggestions? No? There's no need to discuss on net neutrality. We all agree. It's of major importance. It has to be done. You're not to sneak in the mailbox. Okay. Then I don't think that we should waste any more time on the subject. We move on, which means that we will proceed fast, which is not too bad because we have a shortage in time. So Panu, go ahead with chapter 2.
And chapter 2 we have Maria Drokupilova, who will present the chapter 2 for us.
So the chapter 2 is about privacy. It's about our data. As Silvio described, we live now our lives which are getting more and more digital. We are using tools, we are surrounded by machines that should make our lives easier and more efficient. And these machines, especially computers, smartphones, even TVs and fridges, the intelligent ones, collect our data. We also leave an immense track behind when surfing online, when doing our payments with credit cards, or with simply shopping online. And what is this data? It's our personal information. It actually collects everything about what we do, what we like, who we meet, who do we talk to, even the messages and the content of the messages is stored. And this became very easy to be done with all the machines that do these processes automatically. And these processes actually take our rights away. Therefore, we need to extend some of the rights that we already have and feed them to the digital age. We need to protect data, which has our own personal information. We need to keep privacy and recreate spaces where we can act anonymously as it was possible in non-digitalized world. We need systems and processes where keeping privacy is by design or by default. And the governments, administrations, and companies should respect this and take this into and be taken reliable when handling of our data. And this chapter is about that. It provides steps that need to be taken in order to empower people and give them back the decisions about their lives.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Suggestions? Remarks? I will going to ask this with the next chapter as well, and then I'm going to be faster in asking this and going to the fourth one, I think. No, is there nobody who feels the need to have a more in-depth discussion about our data protection, or would like to make a remark?
Mañana es a las 9, ¿no? Mañana a las 9.
Please.
Yes, hello, Marko Ulvila from Finland. Unfortunately, I have not managed to read the text, but I just would be interested in your views about the way we, really eagerly donate our privacy to big corporations like Google or Facebook. That have you addressed this issue that could we, as a green movement, start also working on politicizing the donation of our privacy to interests that are not green at all?
Thank you for the question. I think it's a very justified one. Yes, Sylvia, you want to answer that one?
Let me answer on this. I think companies like Facebook and Google, which offer us services for free in the matter that we pay with our data, with our information, I don't think it's such a big problem that they use our data. I think the problem is that we don't have control over it. In the matter that we don't know what Facebook is collecting for data about us. We don't know if we can delete it, because we can't at Facebook. And we also lost control over this data. For example, I would be feeling much more comfortable if I would know, okay, this data is collected about me on Facebook and so on, so I at least know and have much more power over my data in the matter, and also more power about my life and information I share.
Just to add to this, therefore we need, when you go to the social networks, you have the terms of the privacies, and you have different licenses that usually have very, very big and long text that nobody reads. They also don't usually provide all the information about your data, how it is stored. Therefore we also suggest in the paper that these kind of licenses and terms of use should be transparent, it should be clear and easy to understand.
Okay. Any other reactions, questions? Panu.
Okay. It seems that we are very unified with the net neutrality and the data protection, but there is one issue where we have a lot of discussion, and what we noticed today, and it's creation, innovation, and digital commons and the copyrights. And I will give floor to Malte, and then I think that we will have more discussion than the previous ones.
Hopefully, actually. Does it work? No? Hello? Now? Yeah. Good. Yeah, hopefully we will have some discussion about copyright, because copyright, I would say, is a sensible topic, and I think copyright is something which you shouldn't mess with it, but we have to have a debate about what is our perspective for the copyright for the 21st century, and I think our duty is to find a fair balance on it. And I think our duty is on the one hand side not to say it should be free at all, and on the other hand, it's also our duty to say and also fight against plans who are saying shutting down the internet, filtering the internet, and so on. Because what we have seen over the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years is a kind of war against copyright in copyright infringement, where we had like mostly young kids and young adults sued by international companies to pay hundreds or even thousands of euros for copyright infringement, and I think this is also not the plan. And I think that we Greens have the chance and also like the possibility to bring together all the different voices in this debate, because I think as Green parties all over Europe, we have on the one hand side the context to lots of artists, actors, and so on, and on the other side, as already Panu said, we as Greens have been the only political party who is talking about digital change now for almost 20 years. So we have the context to the NGOs, we have the context to the digital natives, and we also have the contact to a like international scientific community who is working on it. And I think our goal should be to formulate a copyright legislation for the digital age. I think that we aren't at the end at the moment, because there are lots of points where we only say this is the way, but we don't have the answer at the end how it should be in a concrete manner. And I think that like the aim should be that we are there for the artists and that we are also there for the users, but that we are not fighting for the interests of international media companies, because these are the actors over the last 10 years who kind of started this war on copyright. And I think if we keep all these things in mind and also see for us that we have to communicate on these issues and really involve all the people, I think that we then have the chance over the next few years to really make the changes and to find a copyright for the next, I would say, 50 to 80 years. And I think that there should be some things that you have the possibility to share your information and share your cultural goods, because at the moment the situation is, if you buy something from iTunes, which I think lots of us have already done, then it is locked on your iPhone or your iPad and so on, and you have no possibility to put it on a second device. You have no possibility to give it to someone else, and I think this isn't the way how cultural goods should be treated as a closed-up good. They should be there to share and use it, and at the same time we also have to keep in mind that we have to fight for the interests for the artists, that they get well paid for their work, that they also keep their rights to say to certain things no, and that they also have a right to say also to international companies sometimes no, because at the moment they only have the chance, either they say yes to a contract with a record company, or to say no, and they have no possibilities to influence this deal, and I think this should also change. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Malte. I've heard the words fair balance. I think I've heard them very, very loud and very clear. I've heard the word legislation for the legislation for the 21st century. I think 50 to 80 years is maybe a bit too ambitious, but that it should be 21st century. That's something that I can feel with, and I hear you also saying a fair balance between protection of artists and protection of users, and especially against the interest of big media companies. Well, any questions about this? Is there anybody who? Yes, sorry. There is Jacob. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Carlos Martins. I'm from ICO in Madrid, and I am co-coordinator of the Cultural Policies Working Group. We have been discussing these issues last year, more or less, together with our colleagues of the Information Society Working Group, and we have not reached an agreement. At least the agreement with which we got the same feeling was that we should put both parts of the equation together and to discuss between them and us, because these are not easy things, and we cannot claim to speak in the position of the others without listening to what the others have to say. So that's more or less what I have proposed, and I think this means that probably it's not the moment to have a definitive position about this issue of copyright and the digital rights, because we need more discussion, at least that. Thank you.
I see a reaction from Didier Cornell at the back and Miriam Kennett in front. Yeah. Miriam.
Yeah, well, this is really interesting because it's about what knowledge is, I think. Many of the academic journals sort of are used to define knowledge, and the first thing I object to violently is most of them are owned by people who are in the military, if you think of Elsevier Publishing. And then the other thing is that you have to buy your way into getting a ranking, so that's already terrible. And then what happens is that what happened to us is we wrote the kind of defining thing about green economics in an academic journal, but unbeknown to us, the contract we were given meant that actually effectively the publisher stole the rights to it without us realising, because they specialise, many of these journals, in new authors. So it's like the music business used to be. So, you think, well, this is great, I'm being published. And before you know it, you've signed away the rights to really good stuff. And what's happened is a lot of innovators then belong to the journal owners. And this is very wrong. Now, what's been mooted is open source. But if you look at what the open source offering is by the big journal companies, they charge the writer £3,000 to put something in, which is stealing, and it's not knowledge. It's outrageous. George Monbiot in England started to write about this. It's a really serious problem that our knowledge is being stolen.
It's slightly slower.
Okay, yeah. Did you get all that bit? Yeah, so our knowledge is being stolen, so that's really important. I think that what we're doing in the Institute, when we realised what was happening, is that we offer shared permission to publish. That means we don't own the article. Why do we need to own somebody's writing? Why on earth do we need to do that? There is absolutely no reason that we would want to own something someone else has written. And I think as Greens, the word sharing is terribly important. That, you know, this assignment of copyright, assignment of ownership is absolutely outrageous. And that's where I think we should start, in using that word sharing and stopping the ownership. The other thing that happens is that very often the best bit that somebody offers to be published is their PhD or their master's research. That gets published, and then they're not allowed to use it afterwards. You know, so it's just disgusting. And really, as Greens, we ought to be able to make a statement. To me, it's very clear. This is an issue of stealing, and it's an issue of bully tactics, again, from the large multinationals, because that's what it is. They have the power to make or break an academic career. So if somebody refuses to publish in those journals, they will not have a career, an academic career. So really, these are very clear issues, and they're related to globalization and this issue of massive power in small hands.
Thank you very much, Miriam. I think that was a very clear explanation, very clear statement. DJ.
Yeah, Didier Canal from Ecolo. I think that there are, first thing important to say, it's there are a lot of things made with public funds. For all these things, it's important to say that it is belonging to everybody. And it's a big part of the intellectual production. There is also a second category. There are many people wanting to share their knowledge. And for this part, I think also it's important to make it possible to be available for everybody. Where I think that we should keep, let's say, copyright, restricted copyright, but copyright, it's when there are people who want to make revenue with their intellectual work, and that I don't think that we can allow the free possibility to copy even when you don't have a lucrative goal. Why? Because nowadays it's very easy to copy. It's totally possible for everybody to copy everything. So if you say you should keep the possibility to share even copyright works, it means that the people are not going to be able to have revenue anymore. So the idea to be totally free to copy, even if you have no lucrative goal, for me, it's a bad idea. It's not possible. And it's important to know also that we are in a changing world, a rapidly changing world concerning technological progresses. And it means, for example, 3D printers. That's digital also. And if we say, okay, also for this, everything is freely, it has to be freely possible to share. It's not, well, it's not possible in it's not possible in the society where we are living at the moment, but it's also not possible in the society where we want to live. Okay. So restricted copyright, but no right to copy freely, except for private use, but not except for non-lucrative use.
Thank you very much, DJ. Before I give the floor back to Panu, I would like to see the hands in the air of those who advocate free to all. So how many people in this room are of that opinion? And that it should be completely free? Okay. It's difficult. I think it's an interesting issue. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I've read the paper, of course. And what I try to find out here is where exactly do you differ of opinion? So how far apart are you? And then I hear DJ giving I hear Miriam giving a defense of shared ownership, but shared ownership is not completely, for me, in my perspective, something that is shared by all or is not protected. And then I hear DJ giving a counter argument, and then my question is on which side exactly of the spectrum are we, and how far is the divide in this room? Panu.
I will also comment this issue, and I think that the big question here is that we as a Greens have always supported that we should go this immaterial world, where we go to to the digital things where we go to issues which are very easy to copy, and we have to also think at the same time that where is the freedom for those who want to use internet, and how those who make these issues can survive and make their living. And actually it's a question that it's very easy to say that who owns the car outside, but it's very difficult to say that if I make a song and I put it internet, if I own it, can I say that nobody can download it? Do I have the power to say how it's used or not? And this is a very difficult question, because I can say that no one can steal the car, but is it okay that I say that no one can download my song, I want to keep it myself? And this is the difficult issue here, and I think that Malte explained very well that what I think should be our goal. Our goal should be that we find a fair balance, which is very difficult to find, but we find a fair balance where those who make artistic, those who are academics, those who write books, that they can survive, they can make good living with what they produce. And at the same time that we don't punish those who for their private use download things from internet. And that is very difficult balance, because it's also that if we say that should we legalize downloading or should we decriminalize downloading, because there is difference, and also because and this is very small things where we have to discuss, but I think that we are the only party who can solve this, because we are open to both sides.
Malte.
I want to answer on a couple of things. First of all, to start with the situation in the scientific community. I think one of our principles should be what is publicly funded should be available to the public. I think this should be one of the principles for scientific work, but also for other type of works which is funded by public funds should be there. And I think the second point, what you have said, is more like what is possible when I as an author want to share, but the system doesn't allow to share at the end, because the system is organized that you have to publish only in a handful of journals, and if you're not published there, then you are not a higher educator and so on. And I think this is a system where we have to break out for the scientific world, and on the second hand, I think we should also promote possibilities that authors, artists say, I want to go this way and share my film, my music, and so on, and that we as a community support them there in different ways. I think this should be also a goal. To the second point, I'm a little bit more, I would say, skeptical, because what does private means in the digital world? Private in the past, like in the 80s, was I have a tape here for my tape recorder, and I can share it with you because I hand it over you, and you can share it with, like, I don't know, some else. But today, private means I can send it via email to you, and at the same time, you can send it via email to 100 people, and they say so. And I think for this situation, you can't longer say this is private and this is public, because it's already mixing together. And therefore, I would say that you have to define commercial usage, like platforms like Rapid Share, YouTube, and so on. These are commercial platforms where the owners of these platforms get money from the users, get money from the advertisers. But at the same system, you have also non-commercial ways where nobody is interested in to make money out of someone else's work, but it's to show something. Like I have a blog and I have some photos from photographers and I have a short film clip and I switch it together and I found a new sound file and I did a remix and I don't know, and I said, look at this. But this is at the moment not possible because the photographer comes, the filmmaker comes, the record company comes, they all say no to this and no to this. And I think these forms of sharing cultural goods should be legal. And I think we have to also find ways here how society maybe finds systems to help an artist, to subsidize their works, to support their social security systems, and so on. Because I think it makes no sense to really shut it down, because artists are doing their works to be recognized, to be listened to be watched, and so else. And I think this is the way we should think about it, and at the same time always say, when someone uses copyright protected work for commercial usage and doesn't pay the artist, then we are fighting against these companies and platforms and say clearly no to this, but this should be our fight and war, and not the fight about how like 15-year-old school kids are sharing their MP3 player content.
Clear. Thank you, Malte. There's a reaction from the floor here in the middle. Can I get a microphone there? You can push the button for the microphone.
Hi, Derek Wall, Green Party of England and Wales International Coordinator. I've got quite strong feelings on this because I'm a writer and occasionally I like to eat foods. I'm also aware that if somebody invented pizza now, say we didn't have pizza and somebody invented it, every time somebody cooked the recipe, they'd have to pay copyright. And I think this is ridiculous. I think there are some ways of thinking about it. One is the prevailing notions we have in Western society over property rights are extremely crude. It's very much state owns or private owns. And I think we should look at people like John R. Commons, the legal theorist, who talked about a spectrum of property rights, dealing with very, very crude ideas of property. Property rights are about power as well, and we need to be aware of this. And if we look at neoliberal economics, they've always got very, very strong functionalist arguments based on protecting authors and so on, but they're nearly always complete bullshit because it's helping the corporations. And I think what's key for creative people is to think of revenue streams not preventing creativity. So, for example, there's public lending rights so that books are borrowed from libraries, authors get payment from that. If we'd only just invented libraries, the multinationals would be saying this is an evil idea, the library. So I think we need to be aware of more flexible and sophisticated property rights, and we need to be aware that property rights are about power.
Thank you, Derek. Paulo Kazan in the back. Microphone, please.
Thank you. Yeah. What? Thank you. And I'm from Ukraine, and Ukraine is a leader of the piracy in Europe, as you might know, unfortunately. And but the problem that not in private sector, but the problem also that the very big percentage of piracy in IT is in governmental sector. So our governmental institutions and the parliament and other governmental institutions using illegal software. This is a big question for Ukraine. But at the same time, our government tried to fight against piracy in Ukraine. And the first step was the closing of the most popular in Ukraine website called ex.ua, which had maybe 1,000 of gigabytes films and software and so on. But it was the very, very strong reaction of society. It was the huge demonstration and so on and so on. So this is the also question of the, how to say, day-to-day life. So unfortunately, in the Ukrainian understanding and Ukrainian mentality, piracy software and illegal products and the books which could be illegally downloaded from piracy websites is the day-to-day life. It's the normal situation that Ukrainians are not buying books on Amazon or on other servers, but just stolen from the public servers. So I think this is a very complex social questions, especially for such countries like in Ukraine, because on the one hand, it's very bad, but on the other hand, there is no, for example, there is no capacity in the institutions, in educational institutions, in universities, in institutes, to buy scientific books, to buy academic books. So in Ukraine, it is, in fact, it is impossible to use some modern books and some modern knowledge. So I think this is a very complex problem also with teaching society and with going step by step with very, very long way to the normal civilized world. Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo. Any other reactions from the floor? Here in the front.
You.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Patrick Harvey from the Scottish Green Party. Other goods, loaves of bread or motor cars or anything else like that, other than creative and cultural goods, if you flood a market with them, the price will go down, people will value them less, people may waste them more. Cultural and creative goods, when they're disseminated, the more they're disseminated into society, the stronger and more powerful they can become. If an idea is shared with more people, it can become more powerful. And so dissemination should be seen as a public good, and barriers to dissemination should not be put in place or protected by law. But like other goods, people who make creative and cultural goods want to be able to earn a living, as Derek implied. And so fair recompense for people whose work is cultural or creative needs to be also seen as a public good. Becoming a millionaire is not the same as fair recompense. And so we've got to balance this right there. I do worry as well that we're talking about sharing only at the point of the consumer rather than the point of the creator. The person who created the film or the song or the piece of software needs to have their interest reflected. But so does the person who might create something even better with it tomorrow. And you know, a great deal of history's most important cultural output would have seen people like Shakespeare taken to court because, you know, Hamlet wasn't the first version of that story. You know, we need to reflect the interests of people who want to create something new, not to sell or to fob off material as their own, but to create something new with the output that they should be able to share in the use of.
Thank you, Patrick. Silvio.
Okay, just two little short comments. First of all, because you were talking about if you share an idea. If you share an idea, you have two ideas. And I think this is also with digital goods. If you share a book, you have 2 times a book because it's copied. So you can't actually steal digital goods because it's still there. And therefore, I think we really have to rethink goods and how we think about goods in the digital world. And the second thing is about creators. I think we also need to rethink how we divide in consumers and creators. Because nowadays, everybody can be also a creator. It's so easy nowadays to create little videos and so on. And this is, I mean, if you look at YouTube, you see 9-year-old kids just dancing to some song, you know, and sharing this video on YouTube. And to be creative and really show their creativity. And I think we should really support this instead of criminalizing this.
Panu.
I still think that we should not be naive on this issue, and and we should see that if we think that there is a book and it's a digital book and you still have it when somebody's copied it. If you write that book, you are living with writing a book. You are not doing that as a hobby. And I see that there is a big difference if you are by hobby doing things and you are doing that as it's your profession. And if you do a book and everybody copies it, how you can survive? There is no way if it's free to copy to everyone. And this is something what we have to also count, that it cannot be so that the digital copies are copied so that you sell one book and then it's copied to everyone, and you cannot do that. It means that there is no one who can live with making cultural products in internet, and this is, I think, it should not be our goal.
Thank you. Panu, a reaction in the back? Microphone, please.
Just 3 things. I think it is possible to go after large-scale commercial infringement of copyright, and then, I mean, maybe that's what it's about the Ukrainian case. You know, it's up to also the authority to use the proper tool and impose sanction on that. Now it's also. Another important part of the discussion is that if the system is not adapted to the reality of the life of the people and the need of the society, then you have a system that people are not going to respect and they are going to infringe because you cannot live with it. And I think that's also really the political key moment that we are facing, where there has been increase in protection. For a reason that, I mean, we understand the logic of the people who were pushing for that, but we reach a point where it's unbalanced, and there is a backlash from society. I think it is normal. There are people who question the system, who talk about public interest, the need of some minorities and some groups, whether they are the academics or visually impaired people, and we need to find the flexibilities in the law, and we need to adapt the law to those realities. And I mean, the people who love the most copyright have to understand that if they don't do that, they are putting this whole system in jeopardy. If we now have some country from the north who are fighting against visually impaired people to prevent them from benefiting from some flexibilities to access books, and if they win that battle, it's now taking place, you know, and we will have an important international conference in Morocco in May. What does it mean? I mean, it means this system is unfair, totally inadapted, unable to adapt, and not good. So it's a key moment of verity, in a way.
Thank you very, very much for your reaction. One last reaction over there. Please, a microphone on that side, and then I will ask Malte to come to a conclusion. Yeah? Shouldn't be that difficult.
Hola, me llamo Mireia y soy de Valencia, y la verdad es que me voy a atrever a preguntar de un tema...
Wait a moment.
Sí.
Wait a moment, because not everybody has a...
Vale.
Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay.
Bien.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Vale. Bueno, vengo de Valencia y me llamo Mireia, y simplemente quería arriesgarme a preguntar sobre un tema que tengo que confesar que desconozco absolutamente, pero sí que es verdad que, por ejemplo, aquí en España hace unos años se elaboró una ley, la ley Sinde, que era el apellido de la ministra que la elaboró, que trataba el equilibrio del que estabais hablando entre autor y consumidor final. Yo creo que desde una perspectiva muy equivocada, porque la propiedad intelectual la ponía, dijéramos, mediante impuesto, tasa, a la reproducción, es decir, bueno, pues a nuestros MP3, ordenadores, televisores, es decir, se cargaba como una tasa por la compra, tú comprabas ese mecanismo que te iba a pues, dar posibilidad de escuchar música, leer, ver televisión, y ese dinero recaudado iba a la asociación, dijéramos, de autores españoles, ¿no? Que ellos además podían gestionar ese dinero recaudado sin tampoco control de la administración. Me gustaría preguntaros si esto es una cosa que se está discutiendo en otros países de la Unión Europea o se ha aplicado, si creéis que este equilibrio fue muy bien pensado o está mal planteado. Y luego la segunda cuestión. Yo creo que hay un problema educacional, es decir, verdad que cuando habían los libros de texto, ¿no? Pues el fotocopiarlo sería la copia, ¿no? De ese libro de texto, pero eso pues bueno, se podía hacer en algunos ámbitos muy concretos. Ahora hemos pasado a la era digital y se trabaja, por ejemplo, en libros digitales en las escuelas, es decir, estamos introduciendo en educación, por ejemplo, toda la era digital, pero no estamos educando a los niños, por ejemplo, ¿no? En que tengan conocimiento del valor que tiene la obra que tienen en sus manos, ¿no? Y está en un mundo totalmente descontrolado, donde hay copia, donde hay vulneración de, pues bueno, del derecho a la propiedad intelectual. Es decir, ¿os parece que hay que educar en esos valores porque estamos introduciendo a gente muy joven en un mundo donde no tenemos de momento ninguna respuesta en cómo encontrar esos equilibrios que buscamos?
Thank you very much. Malte, can I give
2
the
minutes,
floor
you're a
for
funny guy.
conclusion?
Like, just to answer these 2 points, and then I've tried to find a conclusion, which I won't actually. Like, for your second point, I think yes, there should be. I wouldn't call it educating the values, but talking about the situation, I think it's an important point. I think young kids have to understand how the system works and that there are authors, as Panu mentioned, and who are doing it on a daily, day-to-day basis, and that is their house income, kind of. And at the same time that you also talk about a system implemented a couple of years ago in France. If you download, I would say, or share something 3 times, and you get a card that you have the possibility that your internet connection is shut down for half a year, and that you talk about these different types of situation, I think would be helpful. And to the second point, these systems of taxes or levies on computer hardware and so on, I would say is in 2/3 of European countries implemented, and I find it a helpful way, because this is organizing money where it is impossible to go individually for. And also now for the German Green debate, we have the debate if you should have some kind of tax or levy on your internet connection, also to organize money to give it back to the artists, and find a fair balance in that way. Because I think that artists have the right to get paid. I completely agree to the sentence. They don't have the right to become a millionaire, but to give them something back, I think it is good, and at the same time not to build up a big fence around the internet to say, but we have to keep everything here, and everything which is shared has to come the police and shut down your internet connection and take away your computer. As a conclusion, I would say also the debate here and also the debate in the working group shows me that it is really so helpful for our green debate to have this discussion and not only talk about one side, or that only the politicians who are dealing with the artists are talking in room A and all the internet politicians are talking in room B, and everybody says it's so horrible, it's so bad, but that we talk together in the plenary about it, because I think only then you have the chance to find this fair balance. And I think therefore we should also have the debate on Sunday about the concrete amendments and see if we can already find a fair balance now, or if we maybe need some extra time.
Thank you, Malte. Panu.
Okay, thank you for that discussion, and now we call for the fourth part of the discussion, and Cecil.
Thank you. There are a few ideas I would like to focus on as a short introduction to Chapter 4. For most of us, it is a new topic, although it gets already more and more influence in our lives. This is a paradoxical situation. We haven't yet a clear position at a European level, and while we are already experimenting in some countries new technologies in our democratic practices. For example, we have access to informations which was usually not available for simple citizens. Transparency increases, and that's good. Sometimes we can e-vote, even if there is different definitions and positions about e-voting. So the question is, based on the key values of the Green, how to clarify our position and how to face this strong evolution. This is also important because we also have to face new demands from civil society addressed to the political sphere for more freedom with technologies, more fluidity between citizens and representatives. I won't go into details, but in some countries we are talking about liquid democracy. Elsewhere we prefer to use the term augmented democracy as we talk about augmented reality. So this is clearly a political challenge of this policy paper. How to demonstrate that we, as Greens, referring to key values and referring to a global political project, we are the best to give answers to those demands that are coming not only from the geeks, or so-called geeks, but also from an increasing part of civil society. While other traditional parties don't express much interest on these topics, and while pirate parties develop a radical approach which is both refreshing, popular, but slightly unbalanced. Yes, we as Greens need to offer a concrete political proposal. We had great debates in the working group preparing the policy paper, and we finally proposed a few strong ideas in order to improve democratic participation, improve transparency, and also education, for example, sharing on educational material on the internet, freedom of expression, and especially for whistleblowers, and safeguarding human rights in external relations. This is an important starting point for the Greens' reflection and for the Greens' contribution to a key public debate. That's why we need urgently, I think, a policy paper at European level in order to encourage also more reflection and more clear commitments in our different green parties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any reactions? Yes, DJ? Microphone for DJ, s'il vous plaît.
It's also a little bit of a general remark. So 20 years ago, this was science fiction, a smartphone. 10 years ago, there were many Greens saying, well, mobile phones are dangerous and we have to be very careful and it's only for rich people. Nowadays, you have still a few people thinking that way in the Green movement, but it's a minority. And I'm happy to see here that, at least in this context, technological progress is something seen as a positive, because there are, of course, a lot of dangers related to technological progresses, but there are also very positive aspects. And see, here there is a general consensus that you maybe don't notice, but that the progress in this direction is positive. And it means, and it's important, and we have this in the proposed text, to be very clear, to say that internet access has to be for everybody, not only in theory, but also practically. So it means, well, the money to have it and internet access for everybody with Wi-Fi and so on. So coming now really to the point about democracy, I think that we have to be careful, but to be positive, and because one of the important aspects is that what some people call liquid democracy, but I prefer the classical term direct democracy, is now really very easy to have. And one last general remark is the text that we have, digital rights, is a good text, but I regret that we are not. So in 20 years, there will be probably a lot of new possibilities. Some are dangerous and some are positive. Like probably we will not use electronics by using the computer, but by talking and even maybe by thinking. And also the questions around anonymous will be very complicated, because it will be easy or very easy to recognize people with software and so on. So for me, one of the things I regret in this text, that we are not trying to think on the long term. And well, of course it's not easy, but the Greens should be the political parties where we try to think on the long term, not only for political aspects, but also for technological progresses.
Thank you, DJ. Silvio.
Okay. Because there was spoken about that, these new forms of democracy or this digital democracy is something we already had with direct democracy. I disagree strongly about this, because the important parts about the digital democracy is not to vote on something. It's a process. Because, I mean, our political processes get more and more transparent. It gets more and more participative. And I think this is the most important thing about this digital democracy.
Thank you very much. I feel very much what you say and agree. I again hear the word balance. I think it is a magical word as regards of this topic. Are there any other reactions from the floor? Yes, here please.
I prefer speaking Spanish. I think I explain myself better, so I...
Please give us a minute to put on the headphones. Thank you. And go ahead.
Bueno, hola a todos. Mi nombre es Javier. Soy del grupo de ECUO también, de aquí de España. Y yo sí que creo que un poco lo que ha comentado Silvio, que la democracia no nos podemos quedar únicamente con que la democracia consiste en votar, ¿no? Creo que todos estamos en el mismo punto, sino que yo creo que la revolución de Internet hoy en día está pasando, y está pasando a pasos agigantados, a pasos muy grandes, porque yo creo que en un partido político uno de los problemas que hay es la reacción inmediata ante una serie de problemas que pueden surgir diariamente, una serie de conflictos, donde Internet parece ser una herramienta muy útil y muy rápida de comunicación. Sin embargo, uno de los problemas que puedo ver con Internet es que sí es cierto que todo el mundo puede tener acceso a un smartphone o a un dispositivo que tenga Internet, sin embargo, no todo el mundo decide o elige usar ese dispositivo hacia la participación, hacia la vinculación política. Entonces, creo que tampoco debemos de ser positivos respecto al tema de Internet, pero tampoco pensar que es un instrumento tan democrático como aparenta ser en muchas ocasiones, ya que no todo el mundo accede a él y ya que el anonimato a veces puede ser incluso complicado, sobre todo, bueno, yo los temas de voto, de e-voting, no los veo mucho porque es muy difícil garantizar el anonimato, es muy difícil garantizar que se cumplan los parámetros democráticos de representación, de que una persona un voto. Entonces, esa era la reflexión que quería dejar un poco, que sí que es cierto que es una poderosa herramienta para tomar el pulso día a día a la calle, sin embargo, no es accesible a todo el mundo, no todo el mundo decide participar en ello, aunque bien es cierto que nos puede dar una enorme puerta para que nuestras propuestas, nuestras ideas estén más afinadas, sean más precisas y estén más vinculadas con lo que la población o la gran cantidad de población opina sobre los distintos temas.
Thank you. I must confess that I didn't follow all of what you said, unfortunately, because of the lack of headphones, but I will check later on. Is there any other reaction from any one of you? No? Then, Panu, I would like to give the floor to you to conclude.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for this discussion. I think that it's always nice to discuss with the people who really are the ones who can make the best internet policy or digital rights policy in the political sphere. I think that we Greens have to be in the front, and we are. And I think that I have to thank the working group also to doing this paper, because I think it's good one. And now we have managed today with the working group to make a compromises most of the issues on the net neutrality, data protection, and democracy. But as Malte said, the copyrights, which is the difficult part for us, I think that if we can find here a compromise which is balanced and good, and we all think it's good, then I think we can agree with all paper. But if we don't, then I think we need more time, and we have to continue until November for the copyright part. But I think that it's worth of that, because I think that is one of the big issues. If we can do a good compromise concerning the copyrights, that is worth to wait for 6 months if we cannot do it here. So, but I have to thank everyone and thank for the people here, and thank for you that we are still here. It's 10:30 and there is lunch and beer and there is party and we are here. But thank you very much, and let's have a good party in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The party is not this evening, the party is tomorrow, but we offer you a dinner buffet here in the hotel. I see you back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock when we start with the discussion on the resolutions. Have a good evening.
Bueno.